Welcome to Squad Talk. This is a discussion where we have leaders in the human capital and other C-suite space to talk about the changing business landscape. I'm Susan Ganz, and I'm your host. I'm an outsourced chief of staff working with small, mid-sized businesses and family offices. Today, so delighted to have a fellow colleague from PortlyAI on our show. We're going to say welcome to Maria Frolova, who is our CFO of PortlyAI. She comes with this unique background in finance and leadership, where she's worked with managing multi-billion-dollar M&A deals, and then also has worked in bootstrapping her own analytics startup. She has worked with some of the largest companies in the world and their exceptional finance teams, preparing companies for their IPOs, taking them public, and leading M&A. And she has built and led finance, business intelligence, and e-commerce, SaaS, fintech, marketplaces, and blockchain. And in 2024, she founded her own fractional CFO and advisory firm called Essential, and that is what she is, Essential. Welcome, Maria.
Pleasure to be on your podcast, Susan. Always nice to chat and happy to talk about what we talk a lot as being part of Portly future work.
Fantastic. So let's jump right in. So, as we're moving to more of a project based economy and skills based workforce, what does this mean for you as a leader and for the clients you work with? What are you seeing and doing to keep up with the pace of change in business today?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of data that supports this shift, so I don't think it's a temporary anything. It's there to stay. I mean, but right now, over a third of workforce in the US is freelancing in various ways, not looking or not finding full-time opportunities, whatever the reasons are. So it's 60 million people available for gig economy. Plus, I forgot the exact numbers, but over 80% of employers are shifting from titles and positions hiring towards a skill-based hiring, or so they say. We don't know, but the trend is there. And I jumped aboard that train when I found it essential. I felt like it's more of a time to look at your career and your skill set as a portfolio versus, I was head of finance, then I'm going to be SVP in a larger corporation, and I will be a VP. This linear path to me just stopped working, to be honest. And not just for me, I think it's just stopped working, period. So, as part of Essential, I am very, very lucky to work with some of the forward looking and very agile managers. And it's not just Portly, pretty much all my clients stopped looking at headcount plan as a fixture, right? It's not linear. They're thinking about strategy, breaking it into specific projects, and then looking at resources, including people resources, and more like not the people necessarily as a headcount, but people as a collection of skills. And that's very interesting. One of my other startups, they're working in Africa. It's all skill based. It's all consultants. They all come in for, you know, results driven projects. And then once the project is done, the task force is either people get either reassigned or they just go do other contracts. And that's been very interesting. It does reduce the drag on cash burn by a lot because you don't have to maintain and constantly increase headcount, and it's the highest cost in most of the organizations, especially in tech space. But you think of it as a resource, and it's not people; it's just the skills that they bring with it. So I don't know what the end game is. If I did, I probably would spend way more time in casinos, but I'm a CFO. But what I'm seeing and the data that I'm seeing and the success of reallocating resources towards this squads, project squads versus permanent hires, I'm seeing it working out really well. So I think the end game will be a super lean core agile team because you do need some continuity, somebody who is working on the strategy and has a little bit of history with the company. So small core team and the rest will be this project squads coming together and dismantled as needed. So I mean, it's good. It is great from cash flow perspective. It is horrendous from stability and linear career perspective because that's probably going to get eroded further with time as companies do more and more skill-based hiring and resource reallocation, and everything is so agile. So on a CFO level, the major challenge is actually forecasting, because it is one of the core functions is to do forecasting. So how do you forecast when none of the expenses are fixed anymore? This project-based squads is great, but you need to have foresight into strategy. And then the accuracy of forecast is a question. So I don't have a final solution. I'm just test driving. And I feel like that's the future, because in all scenarios, that's better cash flow. But how to do it technically, that's something we'll need to work out alongside with all the other shifts, right? We don't add 5 engineers a year anymore. We look at it slightly different.
Yeah, so I agree with you that uh, careers going forward are going to be more fluid as teams come together, disband, new teams come together, but it could be the same folks that get deployed in different situations. And so there's even this trend that I saw that Walmart has been able to um, increase their revenue with the same amount of people and augmenting that with AI. So it's very interesting on the trending.
Oh, it is very interesting. I'm not saying get rid of people, but also increases the need for companies to know what skills are there in the organization, right? Because a lot of times, and I'm not CHRO, but I've been part of all these decisions, there is a new product and we hire a brand new team and lay off some other team. It could possibly be that if you get the good grasp of the people as a set of skill sets, you didn't
Yes.
have to go through all these expensive body motions with layoffs, paying severance, and then hiring somebody, spending recruiter time, onboarding money, training money. You don't know what talent is hiding in your organization, which is, for me, it's easier because fractional CFOs work with smaller companies, so there is a good visibility. But the bigger you get, the less visibility there is. So that's an interesting challenge. I don't know if it's for CFOs or CHROs, probably for CHROs more, but that's an interesting challenge.
Absolutely. So speaking of skill sets, what would you say are those skill sets that are needed to navigate through this changing landscape?
I mean, yeah, obviously. I mean, you can't leave it out. So you have to be comfortable with it. But I don't know if it's just a need, right? You're less efficient, less productive, and probably it will hurt you in your career if you just try to resist AI. It's there, just try to make the best out of it. But to me, it's not even AI per se as a skill that's critical. It's, your hard skills are no longer undisputable advantage, right? There's so many things that could be done better and quicker by AI that investing in more and more hard skills, I don't know, you have to have basic ones, right? To just write a proper prompt and to understand, how do you test the results? Where do you see hallucinations? So to me, it's more about ability versus skills per se. So critical thinking, analytical thinking, these are becoming more and more important. But in terms of like learning how to do yet another thing in Excel, I don't think it's going to carry the day anymore for any of the CFOs.
No, not at all. I think what you are touching upon, critical thinking, analytical thinking, creative problem solving, that
Yeah.
those are the skill sets, the very human skill sets that are going to be needed going
Yeah,
forward.
yeah, and I actually like before the podcast, I was actually reading World Economic Forum Future of Jobs Report 2025, and a lot of things resonate. So basically, I'm going to read the numbers because I didn't remember them all. But analytical thinking is still number one skill from employers' perspective. 69% are saying it's essential, but the real differentiators are changing. So you would see human qualities, which is another set of skills that I kind of I agree will be more the only thing AI cannot replace you is basically anything human. So figure out what you want to work on. But they're saying resilience, flexibility, and agility. 67% of employers think it's a must in the transformation times. Leadership and social influence is now number five, or top five skills. Creative thinking, curiosity, and lifelong learning ability are also in the top five. Obviously, AI and big data. And then motivation, and another one that I was very happy to see that one there. Self-awareness. And that is pretty much emotional stability. This kind of stuff started getting into the top. top skills. Like usually it was like, oh yeah, I know ability to work with large data. Yes, it's still there, but the difference in the AI age is not that, right? I mean, AI can process data better than you as long as you ask the right questions and do the right checks. So to me, it's more about just think about where AI cannot replace you, or and where you can use AI to enhance your other skills versus panicking that, okay, yeah, AI, like give it 5 years, they'll do Excel models better than me. They probably will, right? But also they can build it so wrong, but they probably will need you, but in a different quality. So,
Yes.
when I'm thinking about it, I'm not a career counselor, right? But I mean, the way I'm thinking about it, just like step back, take a stock of all your skills and just map it. Like, oh, okay, well, AI is better at this, but I'm better at that. You it's don't think about it as a threat. It's here, right? I mean, you either roll over and panic or you actually try to make it for you.
Yes. Yes. I think what you're bringing out is recognize that there's change going on and respond to that change. How are you going to control what you can control? So, going through any type of change, right, comes with its own challenges. So, what do you do? What do you do personally to take care of yourself, to ground yourself?
Yeah, the things I've been doing recently are very unnatural to me because I used to be in investment banking. So that's 100+ hours a week, all nighters in the office, self-care, maybe I run to the gym on the weekend before going to the office again. So I did nothing. And since then, I probably developed some sort of PTSD because of the moment I had 5 minutes of downtime, I was panicking that I'm useless, I'm procrastinating. There was like a lot of unhealthy things to get over. We're especially transitioning from like full-time roles to like fractional CFO roles. There will be days that are busy, there will be days that are down. So these down days, it was just like horrible. I almost killed all my house plants by watering them excessively. I had to do something. But then a few years ago, maybe at the time when I was transitioning to my CFO capability, I just like, I need to do something. So I did three things for myself. First, I had to work hard on it's creating mental filters, right? The moment we like grab this thing, the telephone in the morning, it's a fire hose of data. There's news, notifications, messages, then you open social media, get inflamed about something, then you do something else, then you see the ads and you want to erase 10 years of age from your face immediately and buy something magic. And this is like from the time you open your eyes until the end when you go to bed, right? And then, or what is it? Stress, we can prioritize. We're always exhausted emotionally. Our attention is not focused. So all these things I noticed, and I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I really can do, especially fractional C4, juggling several projects, several clients. So what I started doing is, every time I feel a little bit of emotional response, I immediately go into analyzing. It's like, what are they triggering? What are they trying to make me do? And it felt bad and weird and unnatural in the beginning. But then by the time you're done thinking, you don't have an emotional response, but you probably found some problem with yourself you need to fix later. But in case it gets into a habit. So right now I feel like I'm way less likely to buy anything impulsively. I don't fly into rage when I see a completely stupid comment on social media or some news that I don't agree with. So, you kind of have to put some effort into shielding yourself from all this endless marketing messages that fly away. Another thing that I started doing a lot, I'm religious about taking me time during the day, even on a busy day. And I'm blessed to live in California. So 99% of cases, you can do your little run by the water. So that's what I was doing. And a little bit of yoga, a little bit of acrylic painting. And the third thing that's more recent from last year is building your community. Because we'll have community of friends and former colleagues and maybe your family, but that's pretty much it, right? That's our core. But I felt, joining Athena, for example, Athena Alliance, so it's just, women my age, my career phase, and just exchanging ideas, exchanging knowledge, and finding this new community that also helped me ground myself and get new ideas and feel more comfortable and confident in what I'm doing now. But basically, self-care is not, it's not optional. Right? I mean, if we wanna have a good quality of life, we have to do it. Easier said than done. But if you don't have discipline around it, you'll just never get there.
Yes, absolutely. It's to use the name of your company, essential. It really is
It is.
for your for one's survival and thrival, as I like to say, to be able to thrive. So, Maria, what's something in your background that we might be surprised to learn about that's informed your approach to change management and workforce transformation?
Yeah, I'm not, I have slightly different and very unique circumstances that made me so courageous about change. I'm like, so like, don't think about it as a failure, think about it as opportunity. People looking at me like, sure, because any change we designed to think of as a threat, right? I don't have that. And that's because life was serving me change, like from very early age, basically from two. I was born in Russia. My dad was a diplomat. We moved countries every 2 to 3 years for another 2 to 3 years, different continents, different languages, different people, different climate, different schools. So I was kind of like a military family moving around all the time. But then I didn't stop. So apparently there's something in me that's like, oh, that's a cool idea. So then I moved to the US, spent 5 years in the US. Then I moved to London, spent 3 years in London, then moved to Moscow, then moved back to California. So I ended, California is my longest stop. I've been here for over 10 years and I might like it too much to move again. But then, speaking of Russia, Russia was another thing. Like Russia in the night is completely wild. So I could write a book, but that's for later. When we'll resign, we have a books plan. So, but just to give you an idea, it's as if 1930s Chicago crime and Mozambique economy had a baby. That would be Russia in the 90s. So survival was not an optional thing. It was daily challenge, and changes and transformation and adjustment was pretty much how we lived back then. And it didn't even feel weird, right? It just feels weird thinking about it now and a little bit more sad. But and then I continued changes. I feel like I always had this FOMO of not doing something or not trying something new. So I've been an accountant, I've been a banker, I've been a PE person, I've been operator, and now I'm fractional CFO. So 5 careers, right? Considering it's 20 plus years, it's not that bad, but still a lot of careers. So,
Yeah,
my approach to it is don't grieve it. Change looks threatening. Again, you can look at it as the end of the world and grieve it, but it doesn't help you. Right? So the quickest you can recover and start thinking, okay, so what do I need to change to stay relevant, competitive, go back on my horse, the easier the bounce back is. And if you kind of go through enough of changes, which we all will probably with AI age, you get comfortable.
yes. So what I'm picking up from you is that changes are always been part of your DNA from from childhood. So you're like, yeah, change is normal, which it is.
It is. I mean, you don't get enough of it. You probably doesn't feel comfortable considering all this like forced and chosen changes through my life. It's like it never is catastrophic, really. I mean, obviously, there could be some life-changing events that are pretty catastrophic, but in most cases, a change is just a change. And one door opens, another closes. Up to you how you want to deal with it.
Absolutely. So one thing I wanted to bring up, just given the seat that you sit in, which is the CFO seat, and I've sat in the CHRO seat. Sometimes CHROs are not given priorities with technology investments or additional budgets. So there's a normal tension, let's say. But AI is a bit different because it's not just a technology, it's a new way of being, really.
Totally.
So the internal pitch needs to change. So what would you guide or suggest in terms of positioning AI for HR and getting the go ahead from the executive team to invest in the the people and the processes and so forth to move forward with AI?
Yeah, but I mean that there's a slow burning tension between CHROs and CFOs. And CHROs are not wrong to think that they always get put in the back burner compared to, say, GTM team, right? But GTM team are the ones that are affecting top line growth, and CHROs are perceived as a cost center, right? So there are always questions excessively. You can bring revenue. Can you instead at least show meaningful cost savings? And if not, how do you mitigate this very serious, tangible, high impact risks if you're asking me to give you a dime, right? And it is, I'm not going to go into defense of CFOs, but everybody's coming to them with budgets, right? So you have to choose the highest ROI when you're allocating money. And I feel with AI, and what it does to the workforce, it's this opportune time for the CHROs to stop feeling, like a constantly begging poor relative in a cost center and take a completely different stance. But that would require to change the entire script. You coming in as an agent of change, not somebody begging for 10 grand to achieve 12 grand. That's completely different. So if somebody came to me, and I wouldn't even come to me, frankly, I would go to CEO straight. You want to be at the strategic table. You want to talk about strategy as collection of the strategic initiatives. You want to be the one designing the skills that are needed for each of these projects. And you want to have a view into what skills are available in the organization. So you're becoming key to execution of pretty much everything. And you lead the discussion with ROI. And it's not that difficult, right? You can look up a sample ROI on our Portly website, but just think about it. If you were able to take somebody, train him a little bit, and reallocate to a priority project, you will save hundreds of percent. Your ROI will be way north of 100%, right? An average calculation on what Portly can do is over 400%, right? So think about it, how much you save on layoffs, how much you save on recruiting, how much you save on not trying to hire that magic engineer from Google for 7 times the average engineering salary. They're real big ROI numbers. So my two recommendations, like be ballsy, but also, no, my first recommendation, embrace change, right? Running around with old playbooks and headcounts plans, it is not gonna get much traction. High ROI, and also repositioning your role as somebody who can actually drive strategy execution versus just managing the workforce as is now. It's not super relevant anymore. The workforce is changing, the demands are changing. So, I mean, it is a challenge for CHRO more than anybody else. Even for me, I was like, I'll figure out how to build a model eventually, right? For CHRO, it's more of a change how to do everything. So I would recommend just be ballsy and lead with ROI. That's my recommendations.
Fantastic. So, in closing, what would you like our audience to remember about our conversation today?
Inevitability.
Inevitability.
Yeah. I mean, the change is here, right? I mean, deny change and, see how far it takes you. You might be lucky, you might be not, but also be aware that if you stay on the same straight line in your head in terms of your career, there are a lot of people in the same position looking for the shrinking pool of roles, right? So maybe don't be there, don't be part of the crowd. Reinvent yourself, like find out what your portfolio skill is and where you can use it without losing too much of income or titles. Forget the titles. Just it's inevitable. Everything changes. Don't resist.
Yes, change is inevitable. So I want to thank you so much, Maria, for sharing your time and insights today. Some things that I've walked away from is that change is really part of your DNA and your messaging around embracing change. Uh, I also took away your focus on ROI for projects and positioning HR as a strategic leader who can drive these changes in the workforce. So in terms of where people can find Maria, you can reach out to her at Maria at Essential, and that's ESSNTL.co, or via LinkedIn, and she's under Frolova Maria. So Frolova, Maria, Maria. So wanted to let the audience know if you want to find out more about PortlyAI or Squad Talk, please visit us at portly.ai. And in the squad spirit, keep growing, evolving, and leading the way.